Welcome back to our coverage of the North American LCS Summer Playoffs. We're on to our third match between LMQ and Team Solo Mid. TSM was able to answer LMQ and tie up the series 1-1 there. And we also have to point out, though, that was TSM's first win against LMQ this season. They were 5-0 if you consider the first match of, or 0-5 if you consider the first match of the series. So they've got to feel pretty confident going into Game 3.
Yeah, team that you just beat for the first time ever on the LCS stage. It's a really big swing in your favor, and we have to look at Bjergsen for that. His performance changed from Game 1 to Game 2. Game 2, he stepped it up even further. He didn't die. He had 100% kill participation until the very last fight, where he missed out on only 1 kill in the game. The game had a pretty slow early game, and he actually ended up out-CSing Xiao, and Xiao kind of had a lock-on him, especially at the Baron pit, where he ended up giving himself up as a kill. I think Bjergsen's going to just have more of the same here. And look at him. He's just laughing so much right now. He's having fun up there because he just took down his biggest rival.
He's feeling good, and you got to feel good after a performance like that. So we'll see if he can continue that into Game 3. Now to jump over to the side of LMQ, though. That was a pretty decisive loss there for them. So what are the key factors that we're looking at for LMQ to turn this around?
I think the big points are Ryze and Tristana. At this point, there are contested picks for both teams. But LMQ is first pick this game. So they get a choice. If they want Ryze, they can take it. If they want Trist, they can take it. Or they can kind of pull a fast one and ban one of them and hope TSM doesn't catch on and ban the other. And potentially just win away with a winning draft phase.
So this will be an exciting draft phase, to say the least, because there is so much up in the air that both teams want to get for themselves. So without further ado, we're going to throw it right over to Riv and Jap for the call of the game.
Thank you very much, Dash, and gentlemen on the analyst desk providing all the beautiful insight in between games. And we are on to our next one, game number 3 in this best of 5s. We break it down to pretty much a best of 3 now. And people have won the first game. You usually don't have good luck in these best of 5 series.
It feels like it, only for this playoff, obviously.
Right.
If we look at the game that TSM had against Dignitas, they lost the first one in crazy fashion, won the next 3. Look at the game yesterday between CLG and Dignitas. Maybe it's a Dignitas thing. CLG won the first game and then lost the next 3. And here, TSM looked really strong in Game 2 after losing the first kind of crazy game.
Right.
A lot of times, especially with these teams that don't have as much experience on best of 5s, recovering after a team has kind of figured you out is really difficult. And it does kind of feel like TSM figured out something about LMQ in that last one.
There was a huge adaptation right in the middle of the game. As soon as Lustboy and Amazing picked up their sight stones, we saw the map. It looked like a damn light bright right off the bat, and everybody could see everything. And that's when TSM said, well, if everybody can really see everything, then let's do it. Because if we're going to be the first ones there, we're going to get the advantage. The advantage now goes to the first pick. That's blue side LMQ. We're going to see what the bans are coming out. Syndra as well. The mid lane, it should get some focus.
Yeah, we said Syndra and Italy probably banned this entire series just because Xiao doesn't want to deal with Syndra, and Dyrus does not want to deal with Nidalee. The Zed as well has been banned the entire series along with Alistar, so there doesn't seem to be much mix-up in the bans. I would expect LMQ to just control first pick again with the Ryze. Been first pick in both games this series, unless TSM decides to leave Alistar up.
That would be quite interesting. I think we'll see a Nami for Lustboy.
You don't say.
I'm just saying. I mean, it might. Wow, Maokai gets banned out this one. They feel like a threat. And the change up of what TSM could bring into Game 3 would be from a Maokai in the top lane. That also could help get that Ryze in there, leaving it up for themselves.
Yeah, Maokai is pretty good against Ryze, and now they've kind of telegraphed where they're going with that one. Shouldn't be too many changes needed here.
The Blue Man Group locked in right away.
Now this is where the differences will arise. Do we see a Nunu for TSM? Do we see Tristana picked early? Or do we see Lucian thrown in again from these early picks above all other AD carries?
Amazing. The new nuisance of this game he wants to be. He may just get it. They're really.
I agree with the Nunu
right.
for sure, but Lucian over Trist again. This is mimicking the picks from last game once again with the teams swapped. It hasn't worked out for these early pick Lucian teams this series.
We did see that when Wild Turtle was just kind of throwing damage on, they still had the upper hand in the lane, but they were never able to finalize the kill. So maybe he feels like he does still have that over Trist with building damage in lane. before finishing that full item.
Could absolutely be the case, and they don't have to deal with the Zillion this time in lane.
That's true. That's a good point.
It's the Nami hover. I mean, it's an opportunity to take it away from Lustboy and push him onto something else. His bubbles were out of control last game, and finally,
Yeah, like
we're going to have to see Lustboy on a different support. First time all playoffs.
yeah, if you are not going to push Bjergsen off, let's push another person that is well respected and controlling the game for the team off of their main. There's still much for him to play. Not many were hit in the support region in the bans for this game, and it might just be purple for the two picks, a Braum and a Mundo.
Big people on TSM's team right now. Mundo, Nunu, Braum, pretty low damage. So it's putting a big emphasis on Bjergsen to carry. And these picks from LMQ are just taking, they're just taking TSM's team comp. That composition is TSM's team comp from last game.
Yep, absolutely.
All 5 picks.
Very nicely done. We could see the Xerath coming in. And maybe it has to be some. Bjergsen locks in here. He doesn't have too much else to be playing at this point. He's got to be able to have some range on that play against the Orianna in mid lane. Another pick and ban phase that went very quick for LMQ, knowing exactly what they wanted, this time thwarting out the Nami pick for Lustboy. Bjergsen tries to round out the composition with something he can help from and deal damage from the outside, as they have a good majority of poke with their team at this point.
There is some good poke just with the Mundo, Xerath, and Lucian, but I really have to commend LMQ here as far as picks and bans go. The saying often goes in best of series, you just ban what beats you. LMQ took it one step farther and just said, just pick exactly what beats you. All 5 champions. And as far as champion pools go, I mean, they have been proven to be able to play all of these champions. The only slight question mark will be how well Moore plays the Nami versus Braum. But other than that, it just seems like LMQ has pushed TSM so far outside of their norm that they gain an edge off of this pick and ban phase.
I feel a back and forth. Having the blue side has really given these teams quite an edge, like you said, in the pick and ban phase. And here we're going to have
this series for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Ackerman in the top lane, he gets his rise. This is such a... I'm excited to see how they execute it differently or somewhat the same.
Yeah, I mean, will we just see the same build from Xiao Xiao? Probably not, because he's against...
Hey, that worked really good.
He's against Bjergsen, so he's going to want the Chalice early on.
Absolutely. All right, it's time to head over to Twitter, everyone. Vote for who you think will win. As usual, send hashtag LMQWin or TSMWin to us at LOL Esports. We'll get those voted, calculated, and shown on the screen throughout the game and updated. It's going to be quite a matchup here, as this is where it gets tense. You don't kind of have to test the waters anymore. It really matters what happens in these games.
There's no feeling each other out anymore. Game 1 is always a little testy, typically the sloppiest games of the series. And then they get sharper as we move on in these. We haven't actually seen many really close games late in the series. It's kind of a matter of who figures each other out first. And we were just talking before this game that it felt like TSM really caught LMQ by surprise in Game 2. But what they've done here in the picks and ban phase definitely makes it seem like LMQ has an answer for round 2 of this series.
Back on track, the win conditions were take everything the TSM used, and we're going to use it against them. They have done so efficiently in champion picks and bans, and we're going to be on to the riff for Game 3 here in this best of 5 series. 1-1 now here in the semifinals. Triple Worlds, man. Triple Worlds on the line. This is going to be quite intense.
Obviously, we're going to have trips to Worlds going out all weekend.
Yeah.
3 North American teams will be able to go, of the 4 still in the playoffs. Winner of this game auto-qualifies, but that doesn't mean it's over for them. The number 1 seed gets a better group draw. So first seed matters very much. So we'll get into that a lot on Monday about why it is important. 3rd, 4th place match will take place tomorrow. The loser of this semifinal and next semifinal will play in that one. It's not a game these teams want to be in. These teams want to be secured after today.
Right.
And then play for seeding.
Don't want to have to worry. It's such a good feeling to be going into those games with a fresh mind and not a worry. All right. Ward's going down quite early on all sides. It seems like Amazing has actually held this ward for himself, so he may try to get it in as they get the movement in the beginning of the game. Nothing to waste too early.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Amazing's doing anything crazy. It's not like they're forcing a late jungle move by No Name or anything like we saw LMQ do to TSM. it's almost like they're just trying to play in each other's heads. I mean, TSM should know what this composition wants to do.
Yep.
Because they did it last game from the exact same side of the map. And now LMQ will try to not do exactly the same thing, just so they have some form of unpredictability. It's a really interesting mental dynamic going on here. That hurt. Yeah, the
TSM fans
W
quite
does
happy.
more damage if it hops in right at the start. Oh man, Lucian Braum gets an early stun.
That's the concussive blows off of Winter's Bite. Lustboy right in the face of Vasily. Very nice start. You got more. You're gonna get the kills out. But that was a great start to kind of put their foot down here. Big damage to Wild Turtle as well. That sustain's not gonna come back as fast. Wow, these guys are going at each other's throats at the first seconds of the game.
The fact that TSM did not get a kill though, and they already burned their Ignite, ouch, will mean that the sustain from Moore's Nami should overwhelm that, unless they can keep the aggression up in the bottom lane before the healing really takes effect, because the Braum Lucian lane does not sustain at the level of a Nami lane.
No,
It does
not
give
at all.
the early level 2 power though.
We're trying to force that. Definitely flex their muscles on this one. Bjergsen playing very aggressive in mid as we saw as well. No Name now on the red, kind of matching with Amazing, so you may actually see them on the bottom side here quite soon. Good push. This is the first time it's really been TSM with LMQ under the turret. They're doing a good job of keeping the lane pressured very, very hard, and they're going to start getting this early word from Amazing in. He sets it up. He's going to head back in the jungle, so it's pretty much clear for No Name, or warded for No Name. They're not going to be clear.
The side lane brush control has been so critical. It's how we've seen the majority of lane kills from LMQ is Lustboy losing vision of one of those side wards.
Yeah.
Actually,
It's such
Wild-
a big boon for a Nami as well, throwing bubbles from the bush. So great.
Speaking of side lane brush control,
Oh, yeah. All right.
I've seen this game before. There's still flashes. Oh no! Well, that gives it away. The Targon's active shot the share gold to Amazing while he was in the brush because he was closer than Wild Turtle was to the CS.
Quite unfortunate there, but a very interesting interaction to know and look for. A little sleight of hand gives LMQ the knowledge of where that Amazing is. No Name can now pretty much take the upper hand here. He's taking golems, he's trying to deny, and Amazing can feel it. He's sensing, he's like, you know what, that didn't work out bottom, so Lee Sin's probably roaming my
elsewhere.
jungle.
Exactly what's happening.
Oh, he just gets it. All right.
Amazing has a lot of vision control. I wonder if they're going to try collapse on him. They would lose so much lane pressure. Nunu is rather difficult to duel though.
Dyrus can pinch down. He's going to
Yeah,
have to flash
he's
over
gonna
the wall. Oh, he got another ward.
Speaking of flash,
Had another ward. Has to flash still. One miss. Dyrus coming in. Oh, no. No. Oh, no.
What a turn.
Baited in for the kill. They're not even focusing now. And
Ackerman still has
Ackerman
flash.
has a flash. Bjergsen can't get in range for the stun. What a
can he recall in time?
turnaround.
Can he get him?
Oh,
Where's the shot?
flashes. That's going to be one. Oh, man. What crazy games. Bjergsen knew. Had a spidey sense of where No Name was going to be, so.
Darius
One
teleported
more.
back into lane to try and not lose too much, but the mid lane, we'll see if that kill works out for Bjergsen. He's going for a little bit more, no flash or ghost.
No,
so
he had flash. He'd be all over that.
The
That's
stun!
the max range stun. It's going to last for quite a long time, and
Red
he
buff slow.
forces a flash. Here comes Amazing. The blood boil's only on him, so he's got to wait for that cooldown. Oh my gosh, Bjergsen comes up with a solo kill.
2-0 for Azereth at the start of the game is massive. Right there is trying to take down
massive,
Chao and
Jack.
Xiao. That is our featured matchup for a reason right now. And a big question was about Bjergsen shot calling. How much is this distracting him from trying to get kills in the solo lane? Well, that time he collapsed down with the team strat, then used the red buff to secure the kill on a Xiao and Xiao. Some fantastic play there by Bjergsen. But because the first blood went to LMQ, and because Ryze got the first kill, LMQ gets just as many advantages off of this. They were pretty much just trading here.
Already intense here in game 3. We're going to have to see if this can be held by Team Solo Mid. LMQ adapts just as fast when these instances happen. Dyrus is going to try to get some forward wards in here that'll pay off later, but for right now, he wants to stay safe before that 6. It feels like this would be that time to get pressured, just at 5. Only 7 minutes in. We have 3 kills in this one. Bjergsen Still able to hit from the outside here, so he's giving Xiao a bit more trouble than usual, but all of his roaming is 40 to 30 in that lane.
Yeah, Xiao hits level 6 first as well. He is maxing the dissonance on Ori instead of the command attack, which is what Bjergsen was doing earlier. He's got to be very careful to avoid the shockwave of Xiao. No flash to avoid it this time.
I thought they might have had a warded already.
Speaking of which,
Down the middle, what a nice delivery on that one. Not a level 6 from No Name, so there's no kick. There's going to be a quick consume. Nicely done. The peace of mind from Amazing to just walk on out.
that's one advantage of the max consume Nunu, is you heal a lot when you
Don't
eat
say.
things. It's a 168-point heal right there for Amazing when he snacked on that critter, and it's the sole reason he survived that gank.
Nice done. Keeps himself quite healthy. He doesn't even have to go back, so he stays in the jungle. We're going to see Vasily returning to this bottom lane now. That's quite even, but it's going to be, again, that pickaxe. Turtle trying to go for that early damage, but this time for Vasily, it's a BF sword. Still not going to act just as much, but if more puts that extra damage on him, Vasily can definitely start putting out the hurt. Tries to get a shot in there, but it's a little bit of a misstep.
Yeah, such a fascinating game here, Riv. Just to see how different LMQ's choices are than TSM's were last game. Obviously, the team comps that they're playing against are different, so we will see some discrepancies there. But
yeah.
For instance, the Lee Sin versus Nunu matchup.
Okay.
What is the difference between No Name's Lee Sin build and Amazing's Nunu build? One is max consume. This gank doesn't have too much power, but it might be just enough.
Oh, yeah, the Absolute Zero goes down. They're making sure. They give it to Dire. It's very nicely done. No Name's there to help snowball the team. Now onto Wild Turtle. It looks like the sustain and the BF sword pay off over the pickaxe. Buster shot it away, and LMQ gains bottom lane control.
Yeah, two fights happening at the same time. We're going to have to see that one again to see just how LMQ got their edge. As far as the top lane gank is concerned, it was just a good roam there by Amazing.
Right.
Because of the choices they make. Sightstone, not exactly the first thing he actually did is Quill Coat first,
right.
But it's still a more superior amount of vision control than what No Name had, and it led to that gank. And then just a 2v2 in the bottom lane cannot happen for TSM. They're going for Dragon.
Putting a little pressure on here. Can Bjergsen get the kill on Dragon from long range? He's only actually going for damage. They may want to continue the fight here. They're not really trying to execute out Dragon. It goes to the Consume Smite. Very nicely done. Amazing being able to take that one away. No Name takes down Braum. That's going to be Lost Boy not being able to give help or sustain to the rest of the team. Vasily drops Amazing, and it's just an all-out battle. LMQ wants more back for not getting anything there.
Yeah, it may be a Dragon steal, but the fact that Vasily is getting these kills is really scary, and Wild Turtle is pretty far from home right now.
No shell, hard enough to keep him alive on this one. Vasily's not able to get anything off of that, but his two already. Whoa!
The young Turtle gets a kill off the back of that one because he was completely dead to rights, just suboptimal turret tanking there by LMQ amongst all that. But because he still got a lot of kills out of that, Vasily did, and the Dragon Steal isn't necessarily a huge thing. They tried to poke it down. I mean, it's a nice Dragon Steal in the sense that no one zoned out Amazing from that.
Wow.
It was actually a bit of a mistake by LMQ not to try and keep the Nunu back. But Vasily is going to be a monster this game. It's basically going to be on Bjergsen to kill Vasily before fights start. Otherwise, his Trist will get ridiculous. And here it was just an unfortunate thing. Let's see what happens to the turret aggro. Yeah, Ackerman drops it. And then more or Vasily
just in range.
Would have wanted to be a little closer than No Name, but that's a tricky death.
I don't think they're too worried about it. It does give Turtle a bit of gold to finish the Brutalizer for himself. We see wards coming out for No Name. He does have that Lizard finished, but he does not have the Sightstone that we saw from Amazing's build last time on Lee Sin. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on this mid lane matchup we're looking at as well. As Xiao takes Bjergsen's Orianna from last game. It's 82 to 73 there. Both teams try to gain ward control over the Tri-Brush.
Really close early game. Much higher action than games 1 and 2. Now that these teams are kind of settled in a bit. Ackerman has been farming quite well in the top lane, especially his ability to be involved in the kills. Allowed him to get those 2 farming items very quickly. Xiao, despite falling to Bjergsen, is doing his best to keep his farm up. I think really if we're going to see a carry for LMQ this game, it will be Vasily. He was a monster on Trist in Game 1, and he wants to do it again here in Game 3.
It's got to feel good to be 2-0-1 on your favorite champion, especially 11 minutes into the game with Season Vasily, more than not, using his aggression to get the advantages in this game. We saw quite a passive Vasily from what we thought we would see in the LCS.
And I'm still shocked that Lucian is being valued above Tristana in this series.
Yeah.
From both sides, just because we keep seeing Trist winning all over the place. Win in lane, more team fight potential, and better late game at the moment. Even though Lucian does have his high points, it's just not being realized in this series.
Turtle's always one that likes to keep the farm going with the harass. This Lucian's the one that can do that, get piercing lights through, and keep going with the damage as well. Still sticking with the damage build this time. Last time he actually had enough for the BF in between, but he wants the penetration for Brutalizer right after the pickaxe. And the sustain for more is just keeping Vasily nice and strong. Level 8 to level 7 as well, level down for Turtle in that lane.
Another shockwave.
Pinches him from the outside, no name. Know what he likes to see there when Amazing comes around the corner.
Those bubbles have been pretty nice for more. Keep them at bay, and then the sustain just keeps healing it back up again. Dara's getting a little low. Still has his ultimate, though.
Slow for Ackerman. There he goes. Gets behind the minion wave. A good shield in. Great job from Amazing to get some deep wards here with Chaos around the map. Glacial Fissure goes out, and they answer back. Soaking down Wild Turtle there real quick. Vasily gets hit up. There's the heal from him. More gonna try and solo out Turtle here with the damage he already received, and it's gonna be a jump in from Vasily. He blocked the Winter's Bite that would have hit more.
This LMQ bottom lane is showing up in this semifinal. 3-0-2 now on Vasily, plus the turret kill. Wild Turtle and Lustboy are getting destroyed down there. And it's just on the rest of TSM to try and carry through. A blue steal comes in from Bjergsen as Darius pressures up that top turret.
Darius doing a good job here, keeping himself alive for the most part on the Mundo for the early ganks. And Bjergsen with that 3-0 right now. Athene's finished, but it's matching up against what Xiao has as we watch this again.
Yeah, this is while the fight was happening down in the bottom lane. They snipe him down with some nice Xerath moves. So as things fall apart in the bottom lane for TSM, they're trying to keep it together in the mid lane, but just...
And Bjergsen knows he's spiking right now. They lose mid lane. He picks up sword boots for himself on top of that Athene's, and he's got a scrying orb for those long range attacks, making sure they have what they can to open up on objectives. Losing mid lane's not going to help too much with controlling their buffs, and that could really hurt Bjergsen. I can see No Name going for that quite a bit since they already have the wards on it.
LMQ is just set up in so many good ways right here. So first off, the Rise provides a lot larger threat around the Dragon area at this stage in the game if he teleports in. Vasily is far ahead of Wild Turtle, and from a team comp perspective, there are 2 threats on TSM and 3 threats on LMQ. But one of the 2 threats is Wild Turtle, who isn't actually a threat right now. He's down an absurd amount of items. So as far as this Dragon fight goes, TSM kind of just has Bjergsen, who needs to do all of the work. If LMQ can successfully force a 5v5 here, they have the potential to steamroll TSM.
Yep. Bjergsen definitely hitting his skill shots right now. And that's all they're counting on. Those miss. LMQ is going to take a nice lead out of this one. Xiao gets himself into position. Both teams really have the dance for Dragon set up here. Good ward coming in from TSM.
A lot of pink wards in that
vision.
brush.
It's an expensive brush right there.
Yeah,
Well, you want to.
A question of how much poke Bjergsen can land with that level 10 Xerath versus avoiding the initiation of LMQ. I mean, they can just go in and charge if they so choose.
They are going to hit it. The tidal wave goes out. Bjergsen has to flash to the left side. He was afraid of Vasily's damage there. The front end burst, and then the rest. And it's going to be a few kills coming in. Amazing goes down, but so does Ackerman. The retribution kills. Whoa, Vasily, there's that aggression that we were looking for. And it looks like he's going to be forced to bait that one as he backs up. He's done. He's dipping, and he gets out alive. Bjergsen cannot finalize the long-range kill there.
Only one of the 3 Xerath shots landed right there, but TSM had great positioning with the new ult, and the kick did not isolate Bjergsen. The only reason TSM could stay alive in that fight, but it will continue here.
Should be able to get this turret with the next wave coming up. A lot of hurt champions on the side of LMQ. It looks like they're actually going to go ahead and give this. It'll be warmed up for something later. They have no need to push themselves too far.
We'll definitely be coming back for that Dragon. So check this out. Bjergsen gets kicked over the wall and then still flashes.
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily need to flash there. The shockwave hits 3, but the Nunu ultimate looked like it was going to be a good zone of control. Beautiful bubble there, would have completely destroyed LMQ otherwise. Vasily goes a little bit crazy and then barely stays alive thanks to the shielding. It's just such a back and forth fight right there. You can see how close these teams are, and somehow LMQ beats them back to the Dragon Pit. It doesn't appear like No Name shocked. They're going back though. Xerath with some great stunts.
Oh, splits it. They're right there in the uprights. No Name gets stunned out immediately. There's Bjergsen from the outside. Wild Turtle's now about to enter the fight with the rest of the team. They're going for more. He is quite squishy. He does not have a flash, only that Ignite Summoner, and he has no chance to use it or reason to. And TSM will push LMQ straight off the Dragon.
Bjergsen Xerath is out of this world this game. He is trying to just put TSM on his back and carry them through. And they're still just going to be ahead in gold after this Dragon. That's how great Vasily has been playing for LMQ, and more as well in that bottom lane.
Still down in CS in that mid lane, but Bjergsen got in the head of Zhao early with all those damaging long-range attacks.
He picked up the double kill early on,
Yep.
and he's definitely used that to try and keep himself ahead of the game.
Well, so far, so good, if you will. 5-0-1 onto him. The team definitely focusing that that's the majority. You're not going to see Dyrus going too crazy here unless the rest of the team is there. The communication on the up and up, and it usually is when your shot caller is the one carrying the game. It's chaos when things go silent. I'm sure that's not the case for LMQ, but it's definitely trying for them right now. TSM's been winning a lot of these fights with Bjergsen on top. It's only going to get harder.
It will get more and more difficult for them. Wild Turtle really needs to catch up here, and Vasily is definitely going to continue to grow in power. Dyrus is going to have to become very farmed on Mundo in order to kind of deny the resets from Vasily in these team fights. Baron control is very evident. There's actually no one that TSM can send for Vasily if LMQ uses a split pusher, because he's so far ahead right now. Unless they sent Bjergsen, but that's just gonna hamstring TSM on the rest of the map if they do that.
LMQ is doing it perfect right now. They want to get Vasily farmed. He's already very, very strong. In his 4 matchups on the regular season against Team Solo Mid, he was 27, 3, and 27. That's a pretty crazy scoreline to be coming in from the bottom lane. Him and Moore definitely had a good time this season, and they still are wreaking havoc.
They really have owned the matchup in the 2v2. Obviously, Wild Turtle only got one of those matchups with Lustboy.
That's right. That's true.
But you can't really say it's solved all of their issues to have Lustboy in that bottom lane. In Game 2, Lustboy was fantastic in kill participation, but now losing his Nami for the first time, his Braum, especially in lane, has been a little bit over-aggressive.
We're seeing, obviously, not the same use of this composition that LMQ has stolen from TSM, but they're holding it. The game very, very even, within about 600 gold right now. Mid turret's probably going to get dropped here as TSM will pressure this one down. A sideswipe on LMQ possibly. They read it quick enough to get back to safety.
Nami sustain, ever so critical against this Xerath poke.
Yeah. Dyrus is in here too, so you're going to have Cleaver poke as well. Great dissonance clear, however. Blade, or Athene's finished up there. And a Ghost Blade coming in for Wild Turtle.
It's actually really key. Oh, big fight in the mid lane.
Glacial Fissure onto Ackerman. He was big enough to take not even 50% health. A little bit of a tag on the end there from Bjergsen. And TSM is completely keeping LMQ at bay on what would have been a nice initiation.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, actually. It's like TSM has this big wall of ice that LMQ has to break through if they want to initiate. Both the Braum and the Nunu. They're going to try this time with one half of it down.
Great ultimate, but No Name can only get over to Dyrus. Definitely would have tried to get to that back line. The Ghost used here by Bjergsen to keep himself safe with some speed, but that's where the eyes are. Moore's only able to get a little bit very low on mana. He can't provide too much more sustain for the team. Scrying Orb from Bjergsen over the rest of them allows TSM to now re-engage.
One more
shot. He hits it. The safety. It's going to be an ardent blaze, but it doesn't connect. Dyrus flashes over the wall. They're tunneling pretty hard on that kill, but it looks like they could be safe. Beautiful dodge by Vasily there, forcing Bjergsen's flash, and everybody is fighting at the highest capacity right now.
Miraculously, nobody has died yet in this fight, but Vasily is still out in the wild, so to speak. He gets caught by Cleaver.
Uh-oh. Not going to be good. 21 seconds on that rocket jump, but the Buster Shot is going to provide his life and the safety as he gets back to base. Nice job. 2 minutes on to Dragon. Everybody's going to be getting back in here so we can get a nice big Dragon fight.
These are really high-level fights, even to the point of Xiao shielding that last move, and then Bjergsen waiting just to get the last hit, only working it into Xiao's shield. Then Darius flashing over the wall to try and execute another juke by Xiao. Just so many close things. And when Bjergsen was powering up, another entity of LMQ tried to assassinate him with Vasily jumping in from behind. Just everyone having to kind of make their own decisions in these chaotic team fights. So a lot of just innate team coordination, even if it's not spoken, needs to exist, of everyone knowing their roles in team fights. Vasily kind of playing an assassin, so to speak, because the front line with Ackerman and Xiao is providing their own form of frontline damage.
We saw how aggressive he can get. He double dove onto Wild Turtle and Lustboy in the first game to get 2 kills for himself and almost ended the game by himself. These series definitely bringing out the MVPs for sure. Lustboy, or rather Vasily, making a good mark for that.
And it's such a high-action game, too, considering the mid-lane matchup. So often you'll see a Xerath in lane actually, another spoiler alert, but in the OGN final regional game, Faker played Xerath in the 4th game, and he was 0-0-0 with like 473 CS or something. It was an incredible farm fest for a Xerath because he can enter into that mode, but Bjergsen keeps getting pulled into these team fights and excelling. I mean, he's at 171 CS, but with 5 kills. And his itemization actually isn't at critical mass yet. When he gets his death cap, we'll really start seeing that Xerath power come through.
We're going to quick pause in the game here. So, what a matchup. 33 to 35,000 coming in so far. LMQ, a little bit of adapting now coming for them as TSM has seemingly taken the lead here in this game. But there is that factor of Vasily that's always there. So LMQ is not really on the ropes. They're just buying their time until they can get Vasily into another engagement situation. Good play, I think, by LMQ by taking away that Nami. It's definitely made a different laning phase for TSM in that bot lane. That sustain is really hurting Wild Turtle on wanting to go in so much.
Yeah, Wild Turtle and Lustboy definitely suffered in that lane here. It's a pause by the red side here. It looked like an issue with Bjergsen. We'll see how quickly we can get that resolved. Obviously, in pauses this deep into the game, no communication is allowed between the teams about the game to ward against like a strategic pause. So you can see these guys
absolutely
having to be silent while the issue is being resolved. Dragon up very, very shortly. This fight is going to be incredibly critical for this game.
Yep. We're going to get this restarted on the clients. Bjergsen making sure that nobody talks on the team, providing that leadership, kind of giving the no. Do not talk. That will be a penalty.
You'd lose a ban in the next game if they were to communicate in between pauses, and if it's a subsequent offense, the penalties would worsen.
And his calls must just be on point right now, calling the rotations that they need. They've been there every time. And even if he can't get there, he's got the scrying orb to help out. So he really can help the team out across the map. Great play coming in from the start. Xiao 203, always up on that CS, can always be a factor in the game as well. Still waiting for some shockwaves delivered by No Name. We've already seen one of them. It was on Nunu, but it's going to happen over and over. With Vasily jumping in 4-0-1, there's probably going to be an instantly dead person, and LMQ is going to be able to refocus.
And what I like about this is we got this sweet pause screen. We can see the gold. You get to see the power in the teams kind of breaking down here. Bjergsen so far ahead of Xiao here, 8,500 to 7,200. Yet for how far ahead Vasily is, as far as gold, because of some of the objectives that Wild Turtle's been able to pick up, he's only 400 gold behind, right? So unless this gets really late game and Vasily can hit 4 or 5 items, it seems like TSM can keep up just because of that ridiculous dragon fight we saw that they were able to come out on top. Because before that, Vasily was starting to take over the game.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
The 4-0-8 from Wild Turtle last game on Trist, I think just made Vasily want to play it even harder this game. He said, you know what, you're going to do that. I'm going to try to come out even harder. The 4th game they played, as I mentioned, Vasily had a 10-0-4 game. So it's just that comfort that he has right now. We already saw him jumping once on a fight. He didn't have a shockwave or anything, just a shield to protect him, and he had to flash out because it almost became a wrong decision. These guys are going pedal to the metal, as they always have. That's how they came out of the Chinese scene. It's kind of that blurred turret image where you're just like, this is how LMQ sees the game. These turrets aren't actually here. They did that in game 1. I think if they could just start doing that again, it's really going to take TSM off guard, because once you get in the face of Bjergsen, what's he going to do?
Yeah, that is one of the things about the Xerath pick right here. It's so great in siege scenarios, but if you can close the distance, as No Name has tried to do on multiple occasions, it's going to be difficult. Just kind of talking about this series at large, I mean, what is really going into this series? Because LMQ, pretty much first place the entire split. TSM had a much different story this split. They were, for once, kind of always sitting below the top teams. They were in 4th, 5th, 3rd, so-and-so. Very consistent, though. They beat almost all of the teams at the bottom of the standings and would lose to the teams at the top. Yeah. So it's a difficult transition for them to make to actually win in the playoffs. It's not something that was expected by many of their harshest critics. And it kind of just all comes down to this, you know? They win this series, they go to Worlds. Nothing else matters if they win this series.
Right. So true, and TSM is the kind of team to take that and run with it. They have that feeling. They want to go again. Like, was it Dash or Zyrene? Just get second. Just get second and you'll go. But they have what it takes to continuously go. And they're one of the teams that was changing throughout the season as well. LMQ's come in with a pretty solid squad, and that's why they were pretty feared throughout the season. And we had changes to Glebe. There was a little bit of, miscommunication and a lot of plays at the beginning of the spring for Dyrus and the rest of the team and the whole teleport situation. So they've come out with a lot. Them bringing in Loco Doco, and there was definitely a change to the team. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting how TSM is one of the few teams who is almost existing on the image of TSM. Because they can change out their players, but because the management has stayed similar with Reginald kind of at the head of the organization the whole time, TSM always remains relevant in that sense. It's different coach, different jungler, different mid laner with Bjergsen, yet they all end up fitting the mold. Like, you can't think about TSM now without thinking about Bjergsen, yet a year and a half ago, he wasn't even part of the team. We can see it was supposed to be a quick fix, but there's been a few complications here, so they're still trying to figure this one out. Exactly what was going on. A vision error in the game was one of the things. Blue buff could not be seen by Bjergsen and Amazing, so they try to client restart, and we'll see how this one gets back into it.
This is definitely a bit of a pause these guys will obviously have to deal with, but it stops the momentum of the game most of all. A very big point there. Something that needs to be fixed, but how can they recuperate from this? Wow, what situation? Who's better to kind of push into something next? Were they comfortable in what they were doing, or is it kind of like, you know what, we can reset? They haven't talked, but their mentality is all the same. They're looking at the map right now, and there's still considerations being made.
Yeah, everyone is trying to do their own individual form of planning, even if the team is not allowed to communicate. This is one of those times where you kind of all have to be on the same page mentally. You got to analyze as a team. So while it's good to have a shot caller, everyone does have to be on the same page.
Bjergsen on the screen right now, feeling great. Was he at 5-0-1, an early game, pushing in Xiaowei Zhao. Not something we've been seeing. Kind of mentioned that Bjergsen, with the whole idea of having to focus on mid so much, doesn't give him that whole prowess to kind of kill, kind of then create rotations for his team. He's got to choose one or the other now. In this
maybe
game,
not.
It's coming
That's
together.
the thing, as you get better and better at shot calling, it becomes more of a second nature thing.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, just not necessarily related to pro gaming, but just getting better at games in general. One of the biggest keys I do is you focus on one thing per game, and you only focus on that. You get really good at it, and then you do it enough that it becomes second nature. Then you can start focusing on another thing.
Is that a personal win condition or an overall win condition for the team type of thing?
It's not even a win condition. It's just saying, today I'm going to focus on CSing. I want to get every CS in lane. But when you do that, you're obviously going to be much more vulnerable to ganks. But for that game, you're only mastering your CS skills. So once you can do that, then you can start worrying about ganks. The next 10 games later, you say, I'm only going to worry about keeping this brush warded and not getting ganked from this angle.
Yeah.
Right? And then eventually you get all those things going into a complex state where you play thousands and thousands of games. And eventually, if you're an ideal player, you can make shot calls as well as still trying to see your kills, because it just begins to come naturally. And maybe Bjergsen's starting to reach that point.
Absolutely. We see those kind of things happen with, lease-in players as well, kind of an inkling that so much is going on. You're like, oh, he's not going to get out of this. But he's been in that instance so many times before. They've practiced that. That's what he's focused on. And then they just jump over a wall, and you're like, oh, never mind. So while we sort things out here on the Rift, we're going to go ahead and throw it over to the guys at our analyst desk.
Thanks, Riv. Now, guys, we've already seen some big exchanges between these teams in this game. So I want to talk a little bit about that because it's, again, another very back-and-forth game. We had a dominating game from TSM last game, even up in kills right now. It's very explosive. Who do you see coming out on top, given the knowledge that we have so far of this game?
The knowledge that we have so far is that they're kind of even, and that gold's on Bjergsen and gold's on Vasily. Both people have the capacity to carry this game. I can't pick somebody that I think would just win this game straight out because the comps, they look good. You have Tristana on Vasily. You have a poke Siege champion that they were playing to the win conditions of earlier on TSM. I can't make a call.
Probably.
I think it's slightly in favor of TSM. They do have a big range advantage with Xerath, so they can kind of abuse that and almost never fight. But at the same time, the longer the game goes, the bigger Ryze is and the bigger Triss is going to get. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, and it's kind of on who executes it better.
Yeah, they keep trying to get to him, too. They keep trying to get to Bjergsen. We saw the kick back from No Name. We see Vasily. He keeps trying to go hard to get to him and take him out with long-range shots. That's the thing that they're gunning for there. And if he gets caught once, it could be the game because he has a large chunk of the gold.
And I can't help but touch on this again. Ryze and Tristana on the same team. We talked about this before the game started, saying you have to do something about it. You have to change it up. And they didn't.
they stole a team comp. They stole the exact team comp.
They changed it up. They stole a comp this time instead of making their own.
Hey, if it works, right? I mean, the W's a W. But let's get into it a little bit more because this time we actually are seeing the Lucian fare decently. In the first couple games, the Lucian just couldn't keep up. There was a gank early in the first game which put him behind. In this game though, although the Trist is I believe 4-0-2 at the moment, so definitely still pretty far ahead and in the position to carry. Lucian's performing decently here.
Well, Lucian performed decently in both games. They favored the Lucian on LMQ last game, and he had a 40 CS lead. This game, the Tristana 3-0-2, 20 CS lead at 13 minutes at that point before the Dragon fight, before Vasily went a little too hard and then had to back out. But he was able to make that play because he had IE to, I think, Brutalizer Pickaxe when that started later on. There's just a lot of things there that I think this Tristana is just a better pick first round, which I think you should be locking in because it just blows my mind that you go Lucian, Nunu, in the same first round of red side. If you're going to get Nunu, pair it with a Kog'Maw. Pair it with something else. I know you don't agree 100% on this because you love Lucian's mobility, but Tristana, I think that should have been the pick there for me. What do you think, Prawley?
If they were definitely not going to pick Tristana, obviously they're taking that Lucian, I think what they could have done is secure another priority pick. Instead of taking Lucian Nunu, they take something else Nunu. Because at the same time, it's like, okay, if they take Lucian, you still get Trist. But you know that LMQ is going to take Trist. And then you just take Lucian on another rotation. And I think that probably would have been a better kind of draft phase. But like Jat said, though, I am very surprised that they got Ryze and they just gave up Trist. And they're like, nah, we're fine with this.
All right, all that being said, it looks like we have gotten the Gremlins out of the machines. So we're going to send it right back to Riv and Jat because we want to get back into this game as badly as you do.
Thanks, Dash. Indeed, you read my mind, and we are going to hop back right into this game. It is, as you said, completely even, but those factors on each side that could tip the scales so quickly if it comes to that.
Yeah, and I can't wait to get back into this. I'm sure the players are really antsy. This is not an ideal situation for anyone, so
No.
Fix the issue. It's just a matter of getting everyone ready to go on both sides, and we can get back into this one.
Lock it back in. So it's Bjergsen. He's over grabbing his blue buff. We have that the knowledge of. We know. So they're setting up for things.
This Dragon fight was seconds away, so it's going to be right back into the action. It's about the vision control on both sides. Darius does have his teleport, but they do not want to get caught unawares. LMQ just starts the Dragon. They're daring TSM to come in, and Bjergsen is way out of position.
Locked and loaded for the objective fight. They're going to make their way in, calling in the backside, but it doesn't do that much damage. Trying to spread out the shots from Bjergsen. The orb has not been used, so they can really get vision behind it. They're not even going to need vision behind Dragon Pit. They're just going to steal it pretty much uncontested with their poke game.
The objective control from the Mac Consume Nunu there as well. They just killed that Dragon so quickly while Bjergsen was harassing them with the ultimate. LMQ was all worried about dip diving and dodging around those Xerath shots.
Trying to.
And Turtle and Amazing just took the Dragon. So, back into the game.
Back into the game indeed. You see all 5 members of both teams on the screen right now. Seem pretty calm, pretty relaxed after the bit of a break. And we're back onto the Rift. That blue buff over to Xiaowei Xiao. Just ticking down on him, as you see. So 5 in his Q, 5 in a W as usual. Don't know which one he rushed. It would probably be to answer back on Bjergsen's damage for the lane, then with the dissonance. Doesn't matter now. We're going to be trying to keep that farm up as usual. Highest in the game as it stays. Looks like he'll try to go back here, possibly going for just a Rabidons. Get that damage.
Well, Bjergsen actually, instead of completing his death cap, bypassed it for the Void Stab as well. So,
but he's not even poor this time.
He's not. A lot of people just do that
right.
so they can cut through whoever. There's already a little bit of magic resist being built here and there. A lot of Mercury Tread choices, the Athenes already. And he's doing enough base damage at the moment, and he'll be able to get to his death cap. I think it's just a matter of which you can complete.
Dyrus doesn't get the knowledge as more and No Name sit in the backside of this brush.
Yeah, they do have an Ignite if they want to. Misses another cleaver. He suspects something is up, but it has not been confirmed. I feel like Dyrus is going to play conservatively here.
Dyrus doesn't try to bite for anything, not putting any damage down, so it's not what LMQ want to act on. This gives TSM time in the mid lane, though.
Yeah, Dyrus is going a little bit too far from home, but if they commit onto Dyrus, it will give TSM the complete go-ahead right here. And now they're going to Dyrus in the top lane. He went too far.
Dyrus throwing himself into the fire. Actually gets kicked the right way. He's going to be able to nicely get from this one. Ackerman just lost his movement speed, and Dyrus pulls himself out of the fire cleanly. Very nicely done, and they're able to put the mid pressure on.
Wow, so all that time waiting in the top lane. TSM didn't really accomplish much in the meanwhile, but now they can push down the mid lane with a lot of people from LMQ just cut off. This should be the middle turret just going down.
Great adapting to what was happening all over the map. LMQ spreads himself a bit thin with 3 in the top lane. TSM takes advantage of a middle turret. The inhibitor is now, or inhibitor turret rather, is now exposed. But it's that poke game. They got to make sure they avoid the fights, just like they did there. Dyrus can be the one getting in all he wants. The team's grabbing things around the map. LMQ, again, right back in the face of TSM.
Jeez, you can see Xerath just
that was big,
destroying people, but then the sustain does help bring them back up a little bit.
Xiao even using dissonance to make sure he dodges that. Oh my gosh, the poke already down to half health just with 2 shots coming in from Bjergsen. He's loaded one up already, and he almost gets that one to hit. Xiao gets the heal for more. Is it going to be enough? Forcing the flash. There go the shots from Bjergsen's ultimate, almost hitting and locking down on this one. But even if they don't hit, it creates so much pressure. LMQ has to go all the way back to the stairs.
And a flash burn from 2 members of LMQ during that retreat. TSM didn't really have to burn much for that, other than a couple low cooldown ultimates on Xerath and Lucian. So they're really trying to dictate this match right now, using their poke advantage to set up siege. That generally means that LMQ needs to set up some type of flank attack, but they just do not have the vision control or the ability to get in position for it right now. TSM just going to continue to siege like this until LMQ plans a flank, or they just run straight up the middle.
I was going to say, it'll be very hard. Nice job. Bjergsen gets himself towards the back line. He's hurt, though. He's not even faced and focusing the fight. Ackerman and the rest of the team throwing out the DPS, and it's going to be the kill going in for Xiao. Vasily, headstrong into the fight. He says, "King me," goes for another jump, and it's going to be the shots onto Dyrus. The ultimate keeping him somewhat alive as No Name takes a ride, keeps himself alive as the team stopping TSM from backing here. They may get a big objective out of this.
Yeah, there's a lot of low health people on TSM. Trying to take Baron against Xerath is rather dangerous, but they know they have him so low, and now this could be Baron for LMQ. Just going right up the gut at TSM. So unexpected, but that's exactly what LMQ thrives on. They teleport back in, full health rise. This Baron is ridiculously hard to stop.
All the time, the pedal to the metal for LMQ. The shots coming in again for Bjergsen on the outside. There's not going to be enough to heal more or keep him alive. Ackerman's forced to run out of this one. Now TSM has the upper hand as they come into the Baron pit, but still.
All right. I may have overstated how ridiculously hard to stop that Baron was. Bjergsen is rather fed right there, and that ultimate really chunked it down. Dyrus, though, gets kicked back.
Ooh, right back. Oh, man. Dyrus has gotten out a lot of sticky situations in this one, but only so many that you can really get yourself out of, Houdini.
How much can he get? He missed it!
Turtle's going crazy. The young turtle trying to go hard, and he has to flash out of that one. Actually gets a face of the mountain as he goes in.
The
very,
damage
very scary.
he took right off the bat from Rise was immense. Oh man, Turtle going off this game.
Everybody's just getting, I don't know, they got a bug in him or something.
Yeah, so check this out. It was the Ackerman into the bubble, into the shockwave, nearly catching Bjergsen out. We talked about if you close on a Xerath, you neutralize a lot of his threat.
Right.
Because they couldn't instantly kill him, it wasn't just a completely one fight. He was trying to shoot poke back at LMQ this entire time. LMQ very nearly took the game completely back into their control here with some nice chasing. The speed from Ori, the speed from Nami is really good chase potential. We're setting ourselves up for another dragon fight. TSM not quite in position with Turtle in that mid lane.
It's only about 1,000 gold difference, chat, so it means practically nothing. That could be 0 right now. It's going to be a great fight. Good poke from the outside. Amazing. Will not be in range for this one, but I'm sure they're not too worried about just losing the dragon. He tries to get himself in for what could have been an absolute 0, but he takes way too much free damage as he just walks along the outside. So LMQ picks up a dragon, even up that gold altogether now at 30 minutes into the game. They are getting later. They're getting that scaling that they want.
And what a series. I'm just seeing the Aegis of the Legion being completed onto more. Them getting that extra magic resist to deal with the siege of Bjergsen is really critical.
Very big.
To their overall success this game, because Wild Turtle has not shown to be a threat. Vasily has his last whisper. He can start slicing through Dyrus much more easily. And this game may have just turned a corner for LMQ. They have the diversified threat. They're getting their late game items. And they do kind of just have to deal with Bjergsen right now.
Well, the whole team was not too afraid to just get in there. That last initiation was Ackerman putting himself on the front line, one of the tankiest members who could have taken a front round burst of damage. And then it was the chase. So TSM has to kite these fights as we've seen before. Right now, ward clearing coming in from Amazing. He could definitely do some big damage at the Baron Pit, but I'm not sure LMQ wants to give him that poke fest right away.
Funneling into the Baron Pit is not the right thing for LMQ to do, but if they can find another fight with a Rune Prison onto Bjergsen, or Wild Turtle, I think, is when they want to go in because they can change so much crowd control with the Shockwave and the bubble right after the fact. TSM trying to cut them off a little bit, though. Bjergsen is properly positioned in the back right now.
Oh, Moore throws out the tidal wave, blocked by Lustboy, and that's going to be the last hit of the calling, taking down Moore. He's got 34 seconds on the clock, and they have a wave that's actually right with them. A siege that's almost dead.
Right there.
Great job.
To catch Moore out of position. This turret going down really fast.
Vasily doing what he can. They have to respect that Tristana damage. He's done well for himself this game, so they are going to start backing off with more poke.
There's too many words in this. There's too many player names in this game that double as good words to use, like Amazing and more. Not doing this intentionally, I swear to God. Anyway, TSM pretty low after this one, trying to get some wave clear coming out, but with more being revived, they got to be a little bit careful not to get caught by the same initiations. Both teams honestly have to be careful with how much damage potential is on Bjergsen right now.
These hits coming in, always giving them something to think about. Cleaver's on one side, Bjergsen on the other. You also have Turtle trying to flash in and go crazy. He's got a red buff on as well, so they're going to want to stick to these fights very, very close, but with enough range to keep Bjergsen alive. He's got the orb up, so if they need to see what's going on behind LMQ, they can do so. They have 3 nice wards right now that are prepping that. 4 nice wards, actually, that are prepping that, so they know exactly what LMQ is ready to do. And they say, that's just about nothing. We're going to go ahead and back. Don't want to give Vasily any crazy kills if they do try to engage us.
This really has the makings of a great series because both teams have been able to adjust to each other, and we may just end up getting a bunch of close games from here on out because game 1 was LMQ jumping out to an advantage, and if not for that mistake, they would have just completely crushed them. And they still were able to walk away with the victory, so
absolutely.
I want to consider that one, you know, first blood for LMQ basically. TSM though in game 2 came back with a really nice team comp. The Orion in the mid lane was a great adaptation to the Yasuo pick, and they crushed LMQ in game 2. And then a good series doesn't really start until both teams have lost a game.
Right.
And now the fact that their adjustments to each other have just resulted in the closest game of the series is fantastic. The way this game breaks will be so critical because the next 2 games would have to be won in a row, and in a series this close is highly unlikely.
Well, with TSM's inventory, a slot has been saved
got
for
Bjergsen
5
again.
pink wards. They're not able to lay down the pink wards, though. If you get in the face of TSM, they shut down Bjergsen, they shut down Lustboy for any disengage, and LMQ is on a rampage to the base now of TSM.
One missed step, and
Yep.
LMQ will crush you. In that case, again, Ackerman, Flash Room Prison, comboed onto Bjergsen, the only real threat on this TSM team. Easy inhibitor after the fact for LMQ.
One side to the other. They lose an inhibitor turret, and they take down TSM's inhibitor. Very nicely played by LMQ. They're going to go ahead and get all the ward control they can here onto the Baron, and you know what? They might actually get this Baron.
With no Xerath to poke them off of this one, it seems like a very easy one to secure. TSM feels like walking in to check this one, but oh baby is this dangerous.
That's definitely a party crowd in there.
2,000 health, amazing not in smite range, they just gotta run away.
There it is. 35-minute Baron going over to LMQ. Maybe TSM can save face with this Dragon in a few, but they're going to have to be worried about a push in the top lane that's going to be coming from this Static Shift Trist and the rest of LMQ. They actually go with everyone. They don't want to give up the pressure just yet. That Baron's ready to be used.
Yeah, all of TSM's eggs being in one basket is making the team fights very simplistic for LMQ.
Right.
If they can catch Bjergsen, they win. If they can't, they just run away, and they have enough move speed to do so. They figured this game out, it feels like.
It was almost a ticking time bomb there. LMQ was just waiting for the moment when they could jump fearlessly in the face of Team Solo Mid. Once again, fearlessly behind the turret. No Name gets in, but he gets locked down, and he's going down. They try to give some crowd control and zoning with Amazing's ultimate, but it looks like the turret's too warmed up. Vasili's got good focus. They do lose one, but they take down the turret. Already taken down Dyrus with the engage. Lustboy's gonna go down now. Vasili, 6-0-5 on the game, and LMQ starting to make some good moves.
All those early kills in the bottom lane really paying off for LMQ. Now you can see so many different threats. Even if Xiao is low, Ackerman and Vasili can still deal damage. That turret going down fast.
Moore's healing, Baron's healing as well. The sustain is fantastic. Bjergsen's up. Definitely have to consider the danger. Oh, Xiao with the dissonance dodging, and he gets himself out alive with a nice command protect. Vasili says, let's go deep, and he goes for the kill. He gets out. Oh, the little jump doesn't keep him alive, actually, and he goes down with a quick snowball from Amazing, but LMQ is still riding high in TSM's base.
And this is all off of that first catch onto Bjergsen. Dyrus, though, trying to keep this one going. He wants the Baron buff off of these LMQ guys.
Home guard Mundo, here he comes. He's going to be trying to get LMQ more. They may go for that kill, but they say that's not the priority target. Lustboy will come in to help with that one. Dyrus still on the chase, does not want to let LMQ get the backs. TSM going to be coming out of their base. May be able to clean up some of these minions, but definitely want to get some vision down for further gameage.
Yeah.
Woo. What a back.
Catch our breath.
Back and forth. The fourth now coming from LMQ. Wow.
We've kind of seen this song and dance before when it's 2 inhibitors down for TSM, especially when they have a fairly tanky lineup. Amazing, though. Solo pushes 2 people off the Dragon.
Hey, man, you don't want to make the Yeti angry.
Keeping the gold a little bit close.
All right.
4 out of 5 Dragons this game for TSM.
Let's see this fiasco again.
Yeah, this was just great dodging by Xiao.
So good.
Sometimes it seems like the best way to dodge Xerath is to just dance back and forth really fast.
You run back into the other alt, because who shoots in the same spot?
Yeah. Who would shoot the same
That's a
spot every
risky
time?
thing, but sometimes it works.
Xiao did there. It was a nice jump
Yeah.
onto Bjergsen as well when Vasili saw he was out of mana. However, he used his auto attack to get a bunch of mana back and nearly bursted down Vasili once he jumped back onto him.
Xiao getting some kills and assists for himself now as well. 4-1-6 and a 6-1-6 Vasili. I've said it before on the analyst desk. Ackerman on Rise and the Tristana for Vasili. Huge pickups, and they are becoming a boon right now here in the late game for LMQ. Using them perfectly. Now they're going to go for the bottom side of the map, chat. Without a Dragon or Baron, they're kind of free to do whatever they want.
Quite honestly, Vasili's Tristana must be stopped. And you can't do it in game, so they should do it in picks and bans.
Yep.
Not the reason that TSM is losing this game, but it's definitely a contributing factor. Ackerman so tanky with that Orianna protect on him, plus working closer to his Frozen Heart.
So they have to consider that they don't see Dyrus, which may make them want to go in, but they're pretty sure they're about to see
Even
Home
just the
Guard
turret
Mundo
seating of
quick.
Trist is immaculate right now, so they get a ton of damage down.
Oh, amazing, just trying to throw down the crowd control. They could keep him outside the base long enough to do some big damage here. He's going to be forced back to the base, and this turret's going down in the next few shots. It is a level 17 facility, so he's only looking for one more level on max range. One kill, rather, coming up as the turret falls. That's Dyrus as well going down. LMQ really persevered through the early game pressure coming in for Bjergsen and the rest of the team. Wow, Turtle gets hit very hard on that one. A great command shockwave to shut down the 80 carry DPS. And LMQ takes their second inhibitor. Middle one came up, so they're going to go for it.
Yeah, this could be number 3, and there's not Nexus turrets for TSM. Even if they repelled this push, the game may be in the bag for LMQ.
Oh, man. No Name goes in a little too early. Bjergsen takes advantage of that with the blue buff, starts shooting out all the spells that he can. This is going to be quite a chaotic fight here. Silly can't get himself to the left side just yet to get shots on the turret, so he's dancing around skill shots right now, but doing a good job of it with the sustain.
It feels like the minions are just going to overwhelm Bjergsen. He's trying to put poke down on champions, but he can't do both. He can't do everything for TSM, and that's the story of this game. LMQ going to pick it up.
We're going to go back and forth. One for LMQ, one for TSM, and one more shot from LMQ to take game 3.
The most back and forth game of the series for sure. But the combined power of LMQ was just too much for TSM to take down in that game 3. They are now 1 win away from clinching their berth at the World Championships.
TSM coming out very surprising in that early part of the game. Bjergsen turning it on, but LMQ said it's time to adapt right in the middle part of that game, and they did a beautiful job to get a few catches and the one mid-turret rush right where they jumped on them. They were like, that's all we need to do. We're powerful enough to pretty much just go into the turrets, and they were biding their time for that time bomb.
Poor performance from the bottom lane of TSM that game. A lot of 2v2 deaths ended up happening. Really got facility rolling. A lot to build on for both teams in that game. A lot of adjustments to be made once again for game 4. I mean, this has been an incredibly close series. I feel like it's the type of series to go 5 games, but LMQ is going to have a lot of momentum there. Turtle didn't look very pleased with his performance that game, as he should not, but the question will be whether he can mentally recover, avoid tilt, and play well in the next game to avoid a game, to avoid a 3rd, 4th place match.
No, absolutely.
Game 5.
TSM coming into that one really looked like they had the upper hand, and then we saw with LMQ in the mid lane, they said, no, this poke is just destroying us. Xiao Weishao almost went down to level 2, as we were saying. Bjergsen wants to be focusing on that. But with all the play and the perseverance, LMQ said, let's just go for the objectives. We're better at fighting, and that's what we do. Every time they came back to the objective, they were able to push off TSM.
We could see it in the team compositions. Much more diversified threat. Simplistic team fights for LMQ. They were all on the same page, and they pulled it off.
And one thing that gets me is there's the mental thing of we took your team and beat you with it play on TSM now. It's only a little thing, but there's always those mind games to be played. Right now, let's hand it over to Dash and the guys at our analyst desk to walk us through this wild back and forth series.
Thanks, Riv. Wild back and forth are the perfect terms to describe this series. We saw LMQ come back from that pause, get a couple good fights under their belts, put the gold onto their hyper carries, and kind of carry that through into a win. But I feel like all this has done is illustrate that this series can go to 5 games and probably will.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the picks and bans and what team composition you craft for yourself. Like, their in-game play is fantastic from both sides, but I feel like what you set yourself up with in terms of win conditions and the tools you have really will dictate that. Because I think LMQ, they played TSM's team comp pretty much the same way that TSM did, and it was just really, really great play from both sides. So I think still looking for those contested picks.
So TSM is back on blue side, probably. Are they just going to take that same composition, steal it back from LMQ? It's ours. We came up with it first.
I definitely think there's going to be a Ryze first pick. I'd be really surprised if they give Ackerman Ryze again. I think it's going to be something where LMQ can't get all 3 playmakers. Because that game, they had Ryze on Ackerman, which is very comfortable champion for him, and he made a lot of plays. They had Orianna on Xiao Weishao, which is another really comfortable champion he makes plays on. And then they had Vasily with Trist, who's just flashing in to kill Xerath and stuff. So they need to take some kind of champion away from their playmakers so they have less options to win the game.
Yeah, I think, like you said, first pick Ryze is going to happen again for the 4th game in a row. You know, doesn't take a crystal ball to think of that one. But then I think that Tristana is going to be picked up first round on red side this game. That's my prediction here. Is I think that's going to go down because we've been seeing Lucian filling that role. But I think that's the incorrect pick here for what you're handling in terms of playstyle of the 2 AD carries.
I'd like to see things shaken up a little bit. Probably I want to jump to a little bit more of a microcosm, the mid lane, because we saw Xerath versus Orianna, and I feel like you had some interesting points during the game about how that matchup goes and like skill orders and things like that.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. So Xiao Zhao started Q on Orianna, which is normally non-traditional. You start E, the shield, just to protect yourself. So we started Q, which for me tells me he's going to try to be aggressive and try to make Xerath back early. But at the same time, Xerath started W, which is a disengage skill, offers a huge slow, and it's a huge range. And it's unlike Q, it doesn't slow you down. So what happened was Orianna's trying to get in range to shoot her Q, and Xerath is able to back up and uses W and outrange her, and then she takes huge poke. She no longer has a shield, and you saw the level 1 play with Orianna. She was like half HP from 2 Xerath Ws. So it was almost like he like Xiao Zhao wanted to be aggressive, and Bjergsen matched that aggression and was just able to counter it really well.
And Bjergsen was making some pretty big plays there on Xerath. He got a fair amount of kills under his belt, but he is playing a fairly immobile champion. So is that something he can go back to, or does he need to be on something more like Fizz that allows him to, you know, get those kills, but also have a little bit more ability and safety for himself?
I do think like the Fizz and, I mean, like even Syndra fits his playstyle a lot more because you can 100 to 0 people, you know, on a high frequency. When Xerath, you know, he has to do EWQ and then RRR, so he can't just kill someone before people can react. But after watching that game, I definitely think Bjergsen's put in a lot of time and effort to learn Xerath, and it's kind of showing. So I think if he wants to play that kind of champion, he can go back to it, and as long as the rest of this team is following up on it and protecting him, they can carry with it.
Yeah, LMQ are throwing a lot of bans at Syndra and Zed this series, trying to keep him off of that type of champion. And I think, you know, it really is just dictated, once again, by picks. I don't think you pick a blind Fizz or anything like that. But I do think that, you know, Ziggs is always open here. You can go for a wave clear champion. You can go for the poke champion. Just whatever suits your comp. I don't think it's just a definitive style point there for Bjergsen, because he can play pretty much everything.
Well, and after picking up those kills on Xerath, being one of the bigger threats, we saw LMQ put a lot of focus on trying to catch him out and, you know, take him out early in the fights. We're actually going to pull up a replay about 15 minutes into the game. Is a fight in the mid lane where No Name goes for a kick to displace Xerath. Probably I'm going to let you take this one away.
So this one was really interesting. They don't even start the dragon because they just want to immediately go into a fight. So this is where they need an opening on Bjergsen, and they already used Rune Prison, so now the only opening they have is with the Lee Sin kick. So Lee Sin's going to follow this kick onto Dyrus, which is really smart, and then kick Bjergsen slightly over the wall. If he was able to keep him in that line bush, Ackerman was there to follow up with the Rune Prison. So at this point, it's just TSM having to kite back. Orianna pulls off a good shockwave, which kind of keeps them in the fight and gets them their first kill. And at this point, it's just everyone tries to kite over Xerath right now.
I feel like this fight was pretty indicative of the expertise of both teams, as we only saw a 1-for-1 trade here, so it wasn't like a huge swing in either team's favor. We saw a lot of fights, actually, as Vasily with the happy feet dances away from the Xerath ults. But we saw a lot of fights that ended in either 1-for-1s, 2-for-2s, or none-for-nones even. So that speaks to the skill level of both of these teams and the shot calling and their comfortability in these team fights.
Yeah, and Vasily went really hard there. Speaking of comfort in a team fight, he had a huge item advantage there over Wild Turtle. He's like, oh, I have double buffs. Jump straight in, try to get a kill for himself. It was great to watch. You know, if he wasn't that far ahead, he wouldn't have been able to pull that off in terms of surviving at the end.
All right, we're at that point in the series where it is series point for one of the teams. LMQ, if they win this next one, they move on to the finals. So probably final question to you, just as a player, when you're moving in to that scenario in a best of 5, on the side of TSM, what do you do to have the mindset of, I know we have to win 2 in a row, but let's focus on just this one. We need this win first to get to the last one.
Yeah, I think probably the most important thing is don't think of it as they're 1 win away. You have to think of it as you're 1 win away from tying the game, and you just want to go for that tie. And then if you get that advantage by, you know, matching the tie, you're going to feel really confident. You're going to feel really good, and you're going to be able to get that tiebreaker pretty easily. So I think as long as they stay away from like the negative side of, yeah, they're 1 game down, I think they can pull out a win here.
All right, got to stay positive. LMQ are just 1 game away from advancing to the playoff finals, so we'll see if they can get it done in Game 4 versus TSM. We'll be right back with more of our NALCS coverage after this.
It's good. You know what it's raining? It's raining men. It's raining men.
There's the heal from him. Moore gonna try and solo out Turtle here with the damage already received, and it's gonna be a jump in from Vasily. Inventory, a slot has been saved
got
for
Bjerg
5
again.
pink wards. They're not able to lay down the pink wards though. Fearlessly in the face of Team Solo Mid. Once again, fearlessly behind the turret. No Name gets in, but he gets locked down and he's going down.